everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the Dream Address tour of my cottagecore flower festival island called Sycamore. This island has been a labour of love on my channel for several months and I'm pleased to say it is now finished and is the perfect representation of the British countryside which I wanted for this island. I've loved every second of putting this island together and it turned out super cute and perfect for any cottagecore inspiration you may need for your own Animal Crossing island. If you're new around here, hi, my name is Twilight. I'm a cozy gamer who is slightly obsessed with everything Animal Crossing. I share speed builds from my islands, take the look around dream addresses, and talk about anything which is new and exciting within the Animal Crossing world. If that's your vibe, please do consider subscribing for more videos like this, and let me know in the comments below what your favourite part is of any Animal Crossing island tour. With that, let me show you around Sycamore. Okay, so let's take a look around Sycamore. We're going to start by my entrance and I just want to talk about this flag for a second. This flag is absolutely incredible and it's actually one that I made myself. I originally had a really bare bones version of this flag that I had on this island for a really long time. Sycamore is my former hardish mode island, so it wasn't an island that I was setting up from scratch, but it was something that I was really hoping to invest time into and be able to continue playing once I was done with decorating it. And I wanted to give it the vibes that it really deserved and the time that it needed to make something look special that really represented me and how I choose to play Animal Crossing. And this island flag for me is a really good representation of that. It's one that I've made myself, and with a little bit of help on stream, we managed to get something that actually turned out super cute and really is perfect for what this island is about. And then from here, I will show you my map, which in and of itself, when you look at it, doesn't have a huge amount of terraforming. I thought there was way more that went into this island than I was originally expecting. When I was building out this island, I thought there'd be a way more terraforming than actually ended up going into this. We used a huge amount of time to build out the top right-hand corner of my island, and I kind of thought it would end up looking like that in terms of terraforming all around the island. But as I was working on the left-hand side, I decided not to put quite so much time into terraforming and instead focus more on decorating, which is why you can see some larger open spaces on the left-hand side. If you want to tour alongside me, the dream address is also on the screen, and I've also included it in the description below so that you can join me in this island tour. In terms of the residents here, I've got myself, and then there's Gala, we have Chief, Eric, Molly, Fauna, Norma, Lucy, Goldie, Diana, and Tipper. I wanted a lot of villagers that would fit within the British countryside aesthetic, so I was looking more for a realistic point of view where we have villagers that could potentially be found within the British countryside. This island largely is a pink, yellow, white and orange theme, so these villagers do fit into the aesthetic, which you'll see as we go around the island, and I love how each of them turned out for this island, and each of them has a really uniquely decorated space that allows them to fit within the story that I've created for this island. And as you then come out of the airport, you are greeted by one of my favourite mood board builds that I have ever made on any island. This area took a lot of time for me to play around with to work out how I was going to do this. I wanted some terraforming that would perfectly open up this area, but would give it a really cute aesthetic and just make it feel like it was a little bit natural and a little bit simple, but could fit in with some hilly areas within the countryside. And I've set that off with a load of streetlights with banners to just keep with the idea that there is a cottagecore town here. And then I've got the dirt path code underneath, which I found in my custom codes video, and it perfectly fits in with the vibes I was going for a rustic and more natural cottagecore style look. And then as we walk through my entrance area, we come into what I thought was a really clever idea, which was to extend out resident services and create a park plaza type area so that you have a little bit of a welcome area here with a park fountain and a couple of benches to just welcome people in. And then as you go to the right of the island, you then come across a secret little incline hidden in the hills. And this takes you up to the first of the farms that I've got on this island. This one is specifically a flower farm, with the resident here being Norma, who runs the flower shop and the flower farm that runs alongside it. This build I originally planned to aim towards Gala, but we ended up bringing Norma into this space instead. And actually her house fits in perfectly with the colour scheme that we've got here. There's a lot of pinks and whites in here and I love how this turned out. I have decided that as part of how I'm playing this island, I wanted to keep more of the daily gameplay experience elements within this. So although for the dream address, this area has been saved with a load of different colored flowers in here to just create rows that indicate a flower farm, they will be taken out and I'll then use this space to do flower breeding in my own time. And then from here, what we can do is we can take the incline back down and we can go onto the beach area, which is where you're going to find my Nook's Cranny. All of the beaches on this island are decorated in a fairly simple style. There's a lot of different flowers here to fill in spaces and then a few extra touches to just give some general cottagecore aesthetic without going too crazy. Beaches are not something you typically find in the British countryside. The countryside is more inland than this. But I wanted to have a few small touches in here that just represents British culture that bit more. So we've got ducks acting as seagulls out here. But then I've also used this cobblestone path in front of Nook's Cranny to create an extension area to just have a little bit of an outdoor cafe section, which I think turned out super well. And when you consider how small this space is for Nook's Cranny, I think the items that I've used here really do add to the overall vibes of it. I've also added in a couple of extra British references with the telephone box here, although this one's in white, but that was just because it fit into the aesthetic. And then to go up to the rest of the island, you walk through the beach area, and again, you can see that this is simply decorated. I've used trees of differing heights to just add a little bit more height, texture, and dimension. Yes, coconut trees you don't normally find in the UK, but I do like having them on my beaches just to make things look a little bit more cute and filled in. And then as you take this pathway behind Nook's Cranny, you walk up to Diana's house, which is a small plot of land that was just left next to my cliffways. And I didn't really know how I was going to decorate around this, so I ended up making a small outdoor library for Diana. And I think this turned out really well. I've used the patchwork chair, the patchwork sofa, and then added in a few books and some teddy bears to just make it look like there's a good little reading session happening in the afternoon. And as we go further inland, there's a secret little incline that's just hidden behind Diana's house, and I did not know how this build was going to turn out. This is my rock garden, and as you can tell as I'm walking through, it is a functional rock garden. It uses a lot of space in my cliffways, and I wanted to have a rock garden be functional. The idea of this island is that I will continue to play in my own time. So I wanted somewhere where I could hit all of the rocks and get all of the resources and share some fun times with friends as well. So I thought this would be a really good use of space. And when we were building it out on stream, there were a few questions as to how it was going to look when it's just rocks placed sporadically with very little space in between to really decorate. But I think the use of the dirt path that I've got in here and then the items that I've used to just add some extra touches and fill in that space really do add into the vibes and make it really feel like a cottagecore home for these villagers that live in Sycamore. From here, we can take a walk up this incline at the back of the rock garden, and this is designed to just be a little bit of a transition area into what is probably the biggest build I have ever undertaken in my Animal Crossing decorating journey. I have placed this log here, right at the back, for one reason and one reason only, and that is for this viewpoint right here. As you can see, this looks out into a massive sunken lake area. This took so much time to decorate on stream, and we spent multiple attempts just trying to work out where all of the cliffs were going to go, how it was all going to be put together, and whether or not it would actually work as a space to just enjoy a pretty viewpoint and chill out in the sunshine. I think this turned out super well in the end, but it was something that was really difficult for me. I've never really played around with terraforming sections, so this was a really big challenge for me to work on. The original plan was I was going to turn this into a sunken rock garden, but as time went on, I realized that I wanted to have my rocks somewhere else, and I've already made a sunken rock garden, which I thought was pretty good, but I thought I could do better. This was my first proper attempt at serious terraforming and trying to make something cute and aesthetic. I think it turned out super well for someone who hasn't done these sorts of high levels of terraforming before. And then you can take a small incline at the back of the viewing point into the sunken lake area. And this area doesn't actually lead anywhere, but it is to help you get down here if you do want to do some fishing and see some of the ducks and enjoy the vibes that are down here. I think this area is super cute and it turned out so well and is the perfect way to add some extra fun into an island. And then if I take this incline back up, there is a secret walkway that you can take that is behind this incline. And that allows you to see the rest of the terraforming and view the rest of the island as well. You can also get this way from walking up the beaches, and I can show you that way as we go back through this island. So as you walk through this transition area, you then walk up to a villager's house that I thought was going to go here, but I didn't know how I was going to make this area work. This one is Molly's house, and I hadn't really anticipated having a villager right at the back of this island. But I think it worked out well because this area was a little bit bigger and there was space for a house, but I was questioning whether I should move things around or whether we just leave things as they are. And I thought this turned out really well. We've got some little hints here of Molly's life, including a bistro table and a chair with just a book and a wooden crate with some apples on it. So she's keeping herself busy out here, and she's got her little fruit basket as she collects fruit in the afternoon sunlight. And then on my peninsula, I've decorated this fairly simply. I wasn't too sure what I was going to put on here because this is one of the narrowest peninsulas you can get. And in the end, I decided to just use some of the wedding items and create a wedding area to take place. We decided this was actually the area that Eric and Fauna were using. So that's the little backstory that we have for this island. I think that's super cute for this area. And then as we come past Diana's house, we can then go back inland and we can take a look at some of the other areas that I've decorated on this island. So when you get into resident services, there are a couple of different options for you to see the rest of the island. You can either head behind resident services and there's a little hidden walkway there that will take you up to the top of the island, or you can go to the left and it will take you onto the front part of the island. So let's head to the left and we can head down towards the front of the island and I'll show you what's down there. So in this area down here, we have the back of the terraforming that you can see from the entrance, and there are two villager houses here. Over here we have Fauna's house and we have Chief's house, and I think they turned out so well within this area. It was originally Rod that was in this space, and Rod just would not ask to move. And eventually, when we were villager hunting, we found Chief on the hunt, and it was decided that we need a fox on this island. Foxes are cute, and you do find foxes in the British countryside, so he had to come onto this island. And for this area, I've got a lot of transition pathways. So I've used the cobblestone lined path to indicate where it goes more into a towny vibe, and the dirt path to indicate where we're going into a more rural part of the island. And I think the combination of these two pathways is actually perfect for just showing how the countryside can vary in the UK, because you will see cobbled streets, you will see cobblestone, you'll see cobble-lined paths, and then there's the dirt element as well. So I thought it was a nice mix of different custom codes to just make things look really aesthetic and fit into the overall look that you would typically find within the UK. And then if we take this bridge in front of the island, we can then come into a completely different area, Gala's house, and a small little section in front of Gala's house, which is a flower market. This was something that I thought would be a really good extension to Gala's house, and you'll see why as we go through. The Gala's house ended up super cute, and I absolutely adore the story that we've got for this part of the island. And down here, there's a small pathway that will take you onto the beaches as well. And that takes you onto a small arcade area, which I thought was a really cute way of just adding some extra touches on this island. I love how the cobblestone path actually fits on this island, and it just looks great on these beachy areas. So down here there's the amusement park, where we've just got a few little toys and prizes that can be won. We have a colourful wheel here to just show you different ways of winning prizes. And then over here we have a small little extra representation of a British beach, which I thought was a really clever way of utilising this space So over here we have 3 wooden storage sheds, which I am using as beach huts because they're quite common in the UK along the beachfront. And then I've also added in a curtain partition, which we're using as a windbreak here. And I think that turned out really well as part of this build. And then there's a couple of extra touches in the form of a sandcastle. We've got somebody that's left their shoes behind, which I thought was a really clever way to just add a little bit of story. And then we've got a diving suit that's left over from someone who was clearly taking a little bit of a swim, which I think is a really cute little touch to add into this island. And then from this area, we can walk back up through the flower market. And there is an incline that is just opposite the bridge, which, judging by the sign over here, you could probably tell where this goes. This is up to the museum area, and this was one area that I had no idea how it was going to work. I did not know where my museum was going to go, and I decided in the end to put it in an area where I could easily get access to it without it taking up too much space on the rest of my island. So I've included the museum in this small terraformed section where I just played around with some different shapes of terraforming to add a bit more dimension into this island. But I've still used the dirt path codes that I've used everywhere else to just fill in the space and add the cottagecore vibes that I was going for overall. It's really simply decorated because walking around this area is very tricky. So if you are coming to the Dream Address, then please do consider where you're walking because this area does get a little bit sticky. But otherwise, the museum is right there and is in perfect, easy access if I ever do need it when I play every day. And then as we walk up past the flower farm again, we then come up to Gala's house. And Gala has her own little flower business over here, which I thought would be a really good way of using her. As I didn't get to use her as part of the flower farm, I thought she would be better off having her own little flower business down here. So she is the custodian of the flower market. But she also has her own interest in flowers, so she's growing some lilies over here in different colours, and she has a little active shed that she's using to make all of the flowers in her own garden. But her house also feeds in perfectly into the flower field. This was something that I kind of wanted to try. I'd seen a few different people online doing different versions of flower fields, and when I was trying to work out how I was going to make it work, all I could think was that I didn't want something that was too formulaic with diagonal lines all the way through. So instead, what I decided to do was play around with the pathing to create some irregular shapes in the pathing and then fill in with flowers around this. The items that I've picked in for this space do fill in the extra spaces in between, but they're more designed to break up some of the monotony in seeing just an open, flat landscape that would be caused from a flower field. And I think it turned out really well, particularly when you see this from an aerial view. There's a lot of flowers here in lots of different colours, and they all fit in really well into the overall vibes that you would want on something like this island. And then from here, we can head upwards a little bit. And then this feeds up into the last few houses that I've got in this part of the island. Down here you have Eric's house, and he is a bit of a beekeeper over here and has a small little farm area, which I think is a really nice touch here. But there's also a villager house behind Eric's house. If you take this line up here, you come to the smallest plot that I could possibly imagine for a villager. This is Tippa's house. She has no way up or down, and this is very simply decorated with a few custom codes under her doorway to lead up to her house, and then a hay bale to just indicate that she is enjoying herself in her little space. And then if I take this vine down, we can then head through the flower field and up towards my farm area. This is where you find all of the flat landscape on the left-hand side of the island. And a lot of this area is actually dominated by this wheat field that I put in. This was something I really wanted to add into this island because I wanted to show more of a traditional farm that you would typically find within cottagecore islands. So I decided to add in a wheat field to just add in some extra story and some extra life into this island. And I had a lot of fun with trying to work out where to place the custom code pathings just to make it look like a tractor was treading through. But I also played around with different colors of wheat fields in different orientations to not keep it looking so flat, and also making sure that there were a lot of gaps in between the wheat fields so that it didn't look too flat and monotonous, like there wasn't a consistent growth going on between all the sheaths of wheat. And then from the wheat field, we then come up into the main farm area. And if I head to the left, you can then see the vegetable patch that makes up my house, which is the farmhouse. And as you can see, I've got a silo in the background and the main vegetable patch that makes up my garden. So this is designed to allow me to continue to use all of the daily gameplay elements from Animal Crossing. So I've got all of the different crops in here that have grown in, so that if I need to use them to make any food, I can easily grab everything I need. And I've also included a DIY bench and a shed to just add into the sense that this is an active farm and somewhere that is being used as well. My house is fully decorated, so if you do decide to come to the Dream Address, please do take a look inside. I absolutely adored putting that house together, and it is so cute inside. There's lots of ranch style looks in there, and I love how it turned out. And then as you walk to the right from my house, you then come up to my orchard, which is a mixture of the different trees that there are and all of the different fruits that are in the game. Again, I wanted to keep this space functional so that when I do play every day, I can continue to make money from the fruit and I can offer them to friends if they ever need to visit into my spaces. And then when you come out of the orchard, you're then greeted by Goldie's house, which is a really small plot. But as this is a small transition area through, there wasn't a huge amount of decorating I could do with this space other than filling in some of the larger areas to make sure that you couldn't get stuck on anything and that you could transition through to all of the different areas without worrying too much about where you were going. And then as you come past Goldie's house, there's a small incline up here, and this takes you up to my campsite area, which I think turned out really sweet. I love how this has been done. So over here, there's a small sitting area for my camper, which I think is so cute. I really love how I've just got an umbrella there with an apple on it to just indicate there's some extra story going on. And I've added in a kids tent as well to continue the extension of the campsite and make this area somewhere where a camper could be really self-sufficient in doing their own laundry as well. And then from my campsite, as you continue to the right, you then come up to Lucy's house, which is the last villager that I have on this island. And she has a really simple, really beautiful brick house, which I thought was so cute. A lot of the community were divided on whether or not I took Lucy for this island. And actually, I think she really does fit in with the vibes of the island. I wanted someone that had a proper cottagecore aesthetic, and Lucy just was the perfect representation of that. She was one of the first villagers I considered for this island. So for her little garden, which extends right to the back through this small walkway area, I've given her a little sitting area. There's a couple of extra details in here, like garden wagon, indicating that she's enjoying her own flowers. And I love how everything just feels like it's a real celebration on this island, particularly when I've added in small details around the villager's house to make them feel included in the celebrations. And then from Lucy's house, we can then take a small walk down past some more decorated terraforming, which forms the area that leads into my rock garden, and also behind the last building we're going to take you to, which is Able Sisters. For Able Sisters, I've kept this pretty simple, but I think it also turned out a little bit more complicated than I originally anticipated. So Able Sisters area was a really large open area, and I wanted this space down here to act as a community garden area where we could decorate for the different seasons and play community games. And for the Dream Address, what I've done is I've turned this into a market, which is very common within the UK, particularly within these larger sort of town spaces. So I've added in a little bakery with a few little sweet treats on here that you can enjoy if you ever fancy purchasing one of those. We've got a junk trader over here that's just selling a phonograph, some records, and a few extra touches. There's a small fruit and vegetable seller over here, along with a bookseller as well, because those are the typical sorts of things that you would find within these sorts of markets. And I really like how everything just fits in with the aesthetic of Able Sisters as well, that has this boutique-y sort of feel that fits in with the countryside aesthetic I've gone for. This island honestly turned out so perfectly, and I love all of the small details I've added onto this island to give it a homey and cozy vibe. I'm super excited to continue playing with and sharing what happens on this island with you guys. If you want to see more of this island and how it was all put together, you should check out this video next, where I did my mood board build for the island, which turned into the most incredible entrance for an island that you can possibly imagine. And I'll see you over there.